Could play be the missing key to raising tomorrow's leaders? SS Coulter shares how play builds real leadership skills and how her app helps parents inspire kids to get moving and be creative again. Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Are you ready to create real change in your leadership, your career, your life? Join me for a complimentary Lead and Thrive session, a 60-minute one-on-one strategy session where we will discuss your specific needs and map out the next steps to lead yourself and others powerfully. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit transformyourperformance.com/lead Thrive session to book your Lead and Thrive session today. Let's work together to make it happen. Welcome to the Rise to Lead podcast. With me today is Shannon Coulter from Indiana. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. I'm truly looking forward to chatting with you about the leadership skills that children learn through play. Really awesome topic. So Shannon, or SS Coulter, that's the name she goes by, right? So SS Coulter is here to play with us today, and she is your go-to for fun. She helps busy parents feel extraordinary about their parenting. Her children's book series, it's not just one book, it's a book series of 4, the Facet Tales Activities and Upcoming Activity app offers screen light, easy ways to get kids playing, imagining, and moving. Her mission is to help the next generation build balance in mind, heart, and body and develop a healthy relationship with technology, all while simply being kids and having fun. Always remembering that today's children will be tomorrow's leaders. And some of them are already leaders as children, actually. So maybe we can talk about that too. So again, welcome, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited because with your podcast and with what you do, you help leaders and you give great feedback to leaders and new ways that they can do things. And as I've been on this journey of helping parents, I would say, compete with technology, what I have seen and as I've been on a journey of going on podcasts and listening to more podcasts and a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts and leadership podcasts, something that stuck out to me as I looked at the benefits that play have for kids, a lot of the benefits have to do with the skills that you need to be a leader. And it kind of freaked me out because as I was writing them and as I was going through my own leadership coaching, I realized that I had been raised with these soft skills. A lot of them are, some of our hard skills, but soft skills. But I realized that kids without play, when they're addicted to technology, they don't even have the skills to begin with that I would come to someone like you to hone. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's also so important for your energy in general, right? I just literally posted something about a dance show that I participated in this past Sunday. It was bar dancing and also some Afrofusion dancing. And it
Wonderful.
was so much about the energy, that we share with each other. And
Mhm.
when you sit at home in front of your device, you don't really have that possibility. Yes, we do share energy too in that way, but differently. Okay, so like we share energy through this podcast, even though we are not with our listeners or with our viewers physically, but it's just a different way of sharing that energy. when you are in person with someone, interact in person. And I see that also with a lot of the children of, my friends' children. Some of
Mhm.
them are no longer used to actually even thinking of going outside.
Yes. And that's actually what started me on this journey. It was back in 2008. I am a stepmom. And so back then I met my stepkids. I was younger, obviously, in 2008 than I am in 2025. And I walked in from the childhood. I'm a Generation Xer. So I walk in from this childhood of just play. We brag about it. We're like, oh, I was outside playing all day till my parents called me. And, it's a thing that's out on the net right now. And I walk into meeting these kids and I think I'm being cool. And I go, oh, go outside and play. And within 5 minutes, I kid you not, they came back in and then said, we don't know what to do. And it
Right.
floored me. I was going, what is wrong with these kids? So I ended up doing some research on it. Back then, I worked in corporate America and I had been I was a consultant, a communications consultant. So I would help companies communicate internally to their employees. And one thing we were doing at that time were wellness campaigns, which were so much fun for me. I had been doing like how to sign up for your HMO and PPO, how to sign up for stock plans. So that was stuff I did. But this was really awesome for me because I was helping adults change their behavior. And it was joyful for me. So I meet these kids right at the same time I'm doing wellness programs. And I said to my now husband, I said, why don't we grow people up with these healthy behaviors? Like, why are we going backwards? And I know we talk about that all the time with healthcare and stuff. Like, why don't we do preventive stuff? So it kind of came together beautifully because I see these kids that need help. I do research. I realize this is a phenomenon not only with my three stepkids, but this was happening throughout the world because of technology. So I actually left corporate America and started a company back then. So that was 16 years ago when I did that. And the whole thing that I wanted to do was help parents. At the time, I wanted to give them easy ways to compete with technology because I wanted them to be able to inspire their kids to go out and play, because what they were starting to think at that time that maybe this was going to affect kids. Okay, so that was like I keep saying, that was 16 years ago. Maybe this will affect kids. We don't know. Well, let's advance to 2025. We know this affects children.
Mhm.
And there are whole books written about it now. And I can explain, Regina, if you want me to, like what happened, why I started it then and I'm restarting it now, but that's the basis of all of it.
Yeah, no, I would actually love to jump a little bit right into the leadership story, or the leadership conversation here, because I'm
Mhm.
sure you have so much to share about, what leadership skills you see emerging most naturally when kids are engaged in play. And maybe later we come back to
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
and why.
So I have a list up right now. So I'm going to read just the social skills that kids get when
Mhm.
they're just outside being kids playing. And we can kind of talk about it. But I want to picture, for your listeners to picture themselves as little kids, picture your favorite thing that you did outside. And I always throw out the ones I did, like kick the can, TV tag, if anyone played like flashlight tag or ghosts in the graveyard. Okay, so think of yourself doing that. And you didn't think about this back then, but I'm going to read soft skills that come with this, okay? Collaborating with others, playing with others with a common goal, negotiating, learning to follow rules, thinking of others and seeing their perspective, solving conflicts fairly and independently, allowing another to lead, showing sympathy and empathy, and communicating effectively. You also learn how to solve problems. You learn spatial things like that. You increase your creativity, and there's all sorts of things. It's absolutely incredible. Um, so those are the natural things that are coming out while kids are playing. And so if you can picture yourself, like I said, playing like tag, and let's say Regina and I are playing tag and there's three other kids there. So there's the five of us, and we have negotiated the rules for this tag game, which you do. So right there, you're working with others. Someone's naturally going to be leading that. And then let's say a sixth kid came up, and this one's huge for me, but a sixth kid came up. We're not going to sit there and go inside because the sixth child has come up. This problem that just emerged is not a problem for us. It's a challenge. And we're going to work together to figure out this challenge. That is another huge leadership skill. So those are just some of the stuff. I don't know, Regina, in what you do, can you think of other leadership skills that I haven't even said?
Yeah, actually, I can because I was thinking that in the summer we would go to the woods. I grew up on a farm, right, in a tiny little village, and we would go outside. We would stay outside until it got dark,
Couldn't see,
basically,
right?
right? And then we were playing in the woods, and we were creating little zoos out of like whatever we found on the wood floor. So I would
Uh-huh.
add, yeah, innovation,
There's
coming up with
innovation.
creative ideas,
Uh-huh. Imagination, creativity. And you
Yeah.
need all of these ideas. If you're going to start a company, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to have imagination. If you don't have imagination, you don't have a vision, you're lost. So these
Mhm.
are the things that I started as I started to look into play. And then I started myself as in entrepreneurship. I was going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I got these skills doing the stuff that I thought was just fun. And that is the very thing that kids are losing when we're not allowing them to go. It's not that we're not allowing them to go out and play, it's that technology is addicting and it's taking the place of play. So yeah, that's really where I feel we need to really hone in and work together to get play back because we need leaders of tomorrow.
Right. And one other thing we did, for example, was roast potatoes, just, by ourselves. There were no adults. So we just had to figure out how to do that, how to make a fire, how to, the practical
The practical stuff, I
side of
think.
it all.
Another thing that I didn't say yet, it's the practical, it's the adulting,
Mhm,
it's the creative, the critical thinking. That is a
mhm,
thing that has flown out the window.
mhm.
It's, I'm going to take these different things and I'm going to solve, figure out, look at everything around me, figure out what is right. Critical thinking. That is a big thing. Yeah. And I like figuring out how to make a fire, figuring all these things. And that you develop such, gosh, what is the word I'm looking for? But you get more independence out of that. You get independence, you feel better about yourself, you have more confidence. That is the word I was looking for.
Right.
All of these things that lead to a very competent leader. And you learn
Right.
how to listen to people. If you're going to bake the potatoes or roast the potatoes, everybody's going to give different ideas. So just
Yeah.
a huge amount of skills.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit specifically about unstructured and imaginative play, right? And how can that help children? And you mentioned critical thinking and problem solving. I like to call it solution finding.
Solution, I like that. It's more positive. Yes. Well, the unstructured, I'll take you guys again back to your childhood. Think about the make-believe stuff you did. So you were outside, you were a superhero, you were a truck driver, you were a police officer, you were a doctor, you were a mom, you were a dad. You were envisioning yourself doing all these different things. And then you also get to role play. And that also helps you understand other people better, put yourself in different scenarios. Yeah, it is just a huge thing. And it's so natural. And it also helps you understand who you are and what you like. You can't be yourself if you're not creating and not figuring out what you like. And that's a good way for parents to understand their children too. Because if their children are out, you might think you've got a little girl and you might think she's going to want to play with dolls, but she ends up loving bugs. Like, you know what I mean? So you
Yeah,
might have a future person who's in science that you didn't think that were going to be there. So that is another key of it.
right. So let's talk about helping kids build what you call balance in mind, heart, and body, or harmony, right, between those different. It's always hard to find the right word of what to call them, right?
Yes.
Elements, because they are
Different
really
elements
all
of the body.
related. They
Yeah,
are not separate anyway.
yeah, it's not, it's what's makes up you. You're not going to be
Yeah.
healthy if you're just strong in your mind. You're not going to be healthy if you're just strong in your body or if you're just strong emotionally. You have to have a balance of all three. And those three things too, Regina, come when you're playing.
Mhm.
You're running, that's good for your body. You're negotiating, that's good for your heart. You're thinking, that's good for your brain. So for me, it's all of us need that balance of the three things to be a complete person and to be better for yourself and for other people. So that's why I focus on those three things. And you
Right.
can get a lot of mind development being on social media. You can, but it's also going to hurt your mind. But you're not getting any body stimulation for sure, and you're probably hurting your heart because I don't know about you, but when I'm out on social media for too long, I get pretty sad. A lot about myself, but that's too much comparison. But yeah, it's there's so much stuff, and a lot of times I feel like I'm beating the drum about the stuff that's bad, but there's a statistic that I love to always say. Since 2010, because of technology, the research has shown that depression among girls has gone up 145%, and among boys, 161%. That is awful. So that's why, and I'm out here and I'm saying all this stuff. I have a couple other statistics pull up, like Gen Z averages around 9 hours a day on social media. That's a big deal. So the reason I am saying all this stuff and I'm researching it is because I have spent the last 17 years coming up with a solution to help people, because it's one thing for me to sit here and say, oh, this is bad, now go fix it. It's another thing to say, hey, I've come up with help to fix it, because it's a big deal. So
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be the second part of my question. What are your suggestions to
you
find
do.
this?
So
Yeah, find this harm. I like to call it harmony sometimes rather than balance, but it's really
I like harmony.
interchangeable.
No, harmony is
So
great.
yeah, to so what are your suggestions to find this harmony, to reach this harmony, and
Yeah.
how also, and this is another piece of the question, if you don't mind, how does that later show up in leadership
Okay.
potentially?
Absolutely. So what I have done, I'll just tell a little bit about my company. What I have done when I was back earlier, when I told you that I first decided to do this, what I would realize is that when our kids aren't playing, their imagination muscle, that's something I've made up, but their imagination muscle is atrophying. So you have a kid who doesn't know what to do, and because they don't know what to do, they're coming to their parents for, I'm bored. What am I going to do? Well, an adult only has so many ideas. We really do. We only have so many ideas. So then after a while, we're handing the kids back, we're putting them back on the devices, and that just becomes a downward spiral. We want to go upward and we want to give the kids ideas. They get out playing. And as Regina was saying, we used to play till all hours of the night because you're just having a grand old time doing everything. So what I built back then is I basically, and it's coming out, I'm rebuilding this right now, but it's an app. And so when you have 3 kids, you're tired at the end of the day, you have to make dinner, you have a half an hour, you put in the app, I've got 3 kids, they have been sitting around all day, so I need them to do body activities. And I have a half hour. So this app will come out and say, here's 20 ideas that you can do right now. We've tied them all to points because people will do anything for points. So you can say to the kids, there's this half an hour activity, it's 100 points. And if you get that 100 points, you can stay up for 5 minutes longer, whatever motivates your kids. So that is how we're doing it. So the harmony there is, if I have a kid who came home from school and I found out they did something that was kind of nasty to someone, I could pick up 3 hard activities for them to do. Or if they just sit around all the time, I can do body. And then if I want them to think more, mind activities. So that's the harmony. I'm doing it so it's like right at your fingertips. And we've put points with it because, like I said, all of us, I do stuff for points. Like, I joke about this, but like, I have Chase credit card and I get excited about the points I earn. And it's like, just because I spent a lot of money. Like, oh, I made points. So that's the motivation behind it. What I'm seeing, so you were asking, what was the second part of your question again? Can you repeat it?
Yeah, how does this then potentially show up in leadership later on in their lives?
So as you and I were talking about, that we realized we got all these soft skills by playing, by you being out in the forest, by me playing, tag. This is building the stuff that the kids need to show up healthfully as adults. It's building the problem solving. It's building the confidence. It's building the things. It builds resilience in a huge way. If you're out there playing with the big kids, you have to be resilient because you're scared. That I was. But so it's all these things. And I think now that we've seen what has happened to the teenagers right now, the 20 somethings that can't even look in your eye, we need to write that, because it's not fair to them either. And I'm not blaming anybody for it, but we didn't know what was going to happen, and now we do. So we need to fix that. So that's how you're going to show up, because you're just going to have more interaction with people. We've also put talking points with the activities, and I think that's really great too, because it gives parents something to talk to their kids about and instill the types of things that we're talking about.
So how would you deal then with kids if they say, well, but my friends can be on their devices all day and
That is,
they are on social media right now and I need to talk to them and they don't need to do the other things or
do all these
whatever. You
things,
know what?
right?
Yeah.
That is a An amazing question and a great question. It's something I am dealing with all the time. So the activities and things I'm talking about are really geared toward kids 6 to 12. So
Mhm.
most of those hopefully will not be getting a cell phone quite yet. But as I'm seeing a shift in society and as I'm reading books, parents are more coming together and saying, hey, let's not give our kids the smartphones. Let's not do this. We've seen what this has done. I know a lot of kids who are 18 right now are saying when they have children, they are not going to let them on social media until they're 16 to 18 because they know what it did to them. So it really, this is a village. This is going to take a village. This is going to have to be more people like me coming out and saying, hey guys, like, we got to right the ship. We've got kids who can't look in our faces. So it's going to be that. I'm kind of a bold parent, so I'll say this, but I don't care if your friends
Mhm.
have it. I don't care. Like because I said so. But I mean, having the nerve to say that I think it's fine. But also, like I said, having tools. Like my thing that I'm offering is just one tool, but I think more people are going to come out with things. I also have been thinking a lot about this. I know it's much harder for kids to play in neighborhoods now because you look outside and there's no one playing. If we can get enough people together on this, you could get 5 people in your neighborhood and everybody takes one night and you're like, I'm the parent who will sit in the window that night and look outside and watch the kids play. So you know what I mean? So you spread out that responsibility. And that sounds really hard. So do it once a week. Get 4 families and on Tuesdays, someone takes the Tuesday. But I think it's a slow transition, but I know we can get out of it, Regina. We can. We got into it. We can get out of it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Apart from all the radiation from the devices all the
Yeah.
time, I mean, it's just, it's about the content, it's about the missing out on other really beneficial activities, and it's also about the radiation that kids are exposed to. I mean, we are exposed to a lot of it as we're working
Mhm.
with Wi-Fi and with, some people don't use Wi-Fi, but all these different frequencies all the time.
Mhm.
And some people are sleeping with them, and sometimes you can't even avoid it if you live in a big apartment building, because even if you shut your Wi-Fi off,
It's
somebody else will
everywhere.
have it on, right?
Right.
So, yeah, but that's a different topic, but also something to think
It's
about anyway.
it's yeah, it's all together. I mean, you brought up a great point about the content. I mean, you can put you can put blocks on your phone and that's good, but the amount of stuff that comes through that your kid might see, if you're scared for your kid to go outside and play, don't put him on a cell phone. There's a much worse stuff on a cell phone, and we don't want our kids desensitized to nasty things like that. So I love that you brought up that point because that's another part of this mixture.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk a little bit about this limitation that we all grow up with, right? Even us, when there was not the technology that didn't even exist that you're talking about, there weren't even cell phones when I grew up. There was no internet.
No,
It's been a while.
yeah, me
So
neither.
yeah, but at school, we already know that kids are mainly taught to fit into the system. We have
Mhm.
been to learn stuff by heart, often even lies about history and science and whatnot. I mean, you and I know that. Not to Also, they learn not to question anything that they're
Yes,
presented with in the
yes,
classroom. We were in the same place as well. They're taught to repeat rather than being creative. They're taught to streamline who they are rather than expressing who they really are. They're also oftentimes told that there are only two options, right or wrong,
right
right?
or
So
wrong.
there's only
Yes,
one solution when
yeah.
that's
The answer's in the back
total,
of the book, and that's it. Yes.
right, when that's total bogus, of course, because there's always unlimited possibilities. And that's how many of us and anyone I know has been limited. And then as adults, we're now doing our best to get out of those
Mhm.
limitations again. So, how can then parents or even well meaning teachers or educators or aunties or grandparents counteract that, in your opinion?
I think that is such a wonderful point because when we are in school, we are taught that collaboration is not okay. We really
Mhm.
are because you have to work by yourself, study by yourself, take the test
Compete.
by yourself. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. And that really hinders you. I'm going to take this into a leadership thing. That has hindered me a lot as an entrepreneur because I thought I had to do everything myself, and it's cheating if I need help. And that makes you so busy you can't get anything done. Whereas while I'm good at creating and writing, I'm not good at other stuff. I can get somebody else who's really good at that other stuff to help me, and we together can be successful. So I think the cool thing about play, if we bring it back to play, that teaches kids collaboration. We used those examples before. It teaches them creativity. It teaches them different ways to do things. And as I said, if you're out there playing, creating, making believe, you're learning who you are as a person. That's something that is so beautiful and different than other people. And I really, until our schools get corrected, I am 100% on the same page as you on that, because it's just limiting their brains. I think that is another reason why play is so important. You don't come home and then do all that by myself stuff and then come home and be by myself on a computer. We really need to talk to people and be face to face with people and try things with other people and come up with solutions with other people. And that is really amazingly done when you're outside playing, when you're riding your bikes, when you're deciding where to go on your bike, when you end up in a forest on your bike, like all this stuff.
Right.
So that's all these different ways that this comes back into play. And I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and even inside playing when there's not the option sometimes to be outside, right?
Oh,
There could be
absolutely.
circumstances where you don't have that possibility, but you can also do something else
Give
inside
your kids
actually.
a blanket and some pillows and they can build a
Yeah,
fort. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's
Didn't we do
and that's
that
kind
too,
of
right?
what'd you say?
I said, didn't we do that too? I mean, we
We did
know
that too.
we
And that's
can.
that's another thing. The activities that we provide. I don't really like shopping that much. I'm starting to like it more, but
Mhm.
that's like if I'm gonna go buy a purse or something. But I'm not wanting to go out there and buy all this stuff. Like one of the reasons I made this is because I go out on Google when the kids were little, and these activities were like really in depth. And I'm like, okay, I am not a crafty person. So that is the kind of activities we offer because I want people to be able to be in their house if they're downtown Chicago, if they're rural, America, and the stuff is right there. It's just a pillowcase. It's a rolled up sock. You know what I mean? Because that is imagination. That rolled up sock can be a baseball if you think it to be.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how actually very young kids, like toddlers, oftentimes find the most use in the things that are even the least expensive or the least sophisticated.
Yes,
Like
without the
what
bells
we
and the
did, we
whistles.
used catalogs, for example. We cut out stuff on catalogs or whatever was available, or a carton box or whatever, and you make something from that. And oftentimes when you see very, very young kids, that's
Mhm.
what they find the most fun with and the
The most
most
interesting and the
creativity
most
with.
fun because they're
Yeah.
applying their imagination to it.
Yeah, and
And I
the
always
toy that you just bought sometimes is only interesting for a day.
For a day. Yeah, exactly. That is and I always come back to this. Kids are longing to do this. So I talked about you and I in the audience before, but if you put yourself back to what I said before, I guarantee none of your favorite memories as a child is you sitting on a phone or something. And it's different for us because we didn't have it so much, but you're not technology based happy thoughts. Your thoughts are being with your friends, riding your bike, roasting potatoes. That is where
Right.
it brings your joy. And we're not kids anymore, but we remember being kids. And that's what kids literally want to do. They want to do that. And so we've got to just get them out there, give them some ideas to start. And I'm telling you, that imagination muscle will start building again and they will start having more fun. It's just doing a little culture shift. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned collaborations. I would go even a step further and talk about co-creation, right?
Yeah.
Because we spend so much time because we were educated into it in
Mhm.
in competition and this competitive spirit. And we have it everywhere, right? In corporate, in all these different systems, we have so much competition, which actually is completely counterproductive.
You are 100% right. And I will go back to social media as I was kind of
Mhm.
joking before, but I get off of social media and I feel bad because I end up comparing myself to people.
Yeah.
What is that? That is not healthy. You
No.
only need to compare yourself against yourself. Like, how am I doing compared to who I was yesterday? But that is the whole point with school too, like you said, because you are in competition with everybody else. You cannot co-create. But co-creating is amazing because there's two brains, there's three brains. I can't believe some of the stuff that people come up with. For me, even I've been doing this for so long and I didn't even think about that. And that's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, and it's also really about seeing your own brilliance, your uniqueness, and your unique greatness, and then also being able to see it in other people
And
as
other
well,
people.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
all of these beautiful things, as we said in the beginning, this all is introduced to our children when they're outside being themselves or inside being themselves. I would just say when they're playing, when they're doing what they were made to do, and they're having the joy of childhood that we used to have. Yeah.
right. Yeah, so related to the previous question, in these times that we live in, that really leans this time that leans heavily into screens, as you've just very, extensively explained. So then, how can parents, apart from what you've already mentioned, how can parents encourage even the most like resistant children, and how can they encourage their curiosity?
Yeah.
Um, I believe that curiosity is a hugely neglected leadership trait. That's why I'm bringing this up specifically, right?
Yeah.
So, how
Hmm.
can parents encourage attitudes like curiosity um, through play?
I think first and foremost, and this is going to have to be a behavior change in parents, you're going to have to lead this by example. So if you're going to tell your kids you can't be on your phone all this time, you're going to have to put your phone down too. And I think if you've got a kid
Great
who's being,
point.
yeah, if you,
Sorry.
if, and set boundaries. And as I said before, like if you're going to have the neighborhood thing, if you want to try this neighborhood thing, 5 times a week, it's hard, maybe once a week with 4 families. Okay, let's start that way. You start with your kids. If they're on social media or on screens 2 hours a night, bring it back to an hour and then you can bring it back down. So we start going slowly. You yourself are doing it too. But I think if you have a kid that is resistant to this, then think about when you were a kid and start doing stuff with them. So if you've never fished, gone fishing with your kid, or you've never ridden a bike with your kid, start doing stuff with them and asking them about it. They will reveal to you what they like doing. They really will. And there's so much stuff out there. You will be able to find them. I mean, you might have a kid, like I said, who like randomly loves bugs. Okay, you can find books on bugs. You can probably find clubs for bugs. So it's just, I think it's taking a real interest in them and following their lead, but being willing to, if they're not going to lead, then you lead them until they start talking to you about what they like. Take them to a museum, see what they go to. And you might be really surprised. So I think it's that. I think it's just doing it and you know what? You're their parent, so force them. I'm not a gentle parent. I'm like, let's go. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. So, can you share an example with us of a child demonstrating some unexpected leadership or growth, or some unexpected leadership trait, something like that during playtime that you have experienced?
oh my gosh. Okay. So I think the coolest thing is I did this with my kids then. So I told you I met them, they didn't know how to play. So I started making these activities for them. And this is kind of a weird answer, but I'll never forget I was inside with my husband and we heard screaming in the backyard, like bloody murdy screaming, but like we could tell no one was hurt. And I went outside and our middle child was chasing our youngest around with a balloon. And they had convinced themselves that it was Jaws. So they were screaming. Isn't that hilarious? They're like, ah! But that's imagination. So she came in and said, your imagination's the coolest. So then that child, later on in that summer, set up a whole, she was older than a bunch of the neighborhood kids, and she set up a whole water balloon thing for the kids to play later in the neighborhood. So she became like the leader of the play group, and all these kids came together using that very material and having an absolute fun time. And they did all sorts of different things, like, filled them up, hid them places, threw them at each other. But look at that change. This was the same child who said, I don't know what to do, ends up scaring herself with a water balloon, which is hilarious. We've all done something like that, but then ends up being the leader of the children in the neighborhood. So that's incredible to me.
Right. As I
Yeah.
said earlier in our conversation. children are sometimes already
They're the
leaders
leader. And
at
now
that
she is,
age, right?
this child is, she's not a child anymore. She's 26. She is a nurse
Okay.
on the cardiac floor of an ICU. I mean, and she's phenomenal at it. So using all the skills. So I'm like, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. And how does healthy emotional expression during playtime set the stage for um, effective communication and for self-regulation as
That is one of
future
my
leaders,
favorite
let's
things.
say?
I'm so glad you
Mhm.
brought that up. So we see a lot of people now who cannot get any they go to work, they get their annual review, and you cannot say anything to them or the world is on fire.
Mhm.
It's not good. Like you need to be able to take constructive criticism. It's good for you. Like, hey, do this, this. That has been something that's gotten pretty bad. Like you're not allowed to criticize someone. Well, it's one thing to be critically mean. It's another thing to positively give feedback. So when you're playing and something bad happens, you get tagged out. You can be really mad in the moment. You can be mad at the person who did for you, but you're in a safe environment and you're not going to get fired from your job at 5 when you're out playing. So it's a healthy environment to figure out how you feel. It's a healthy place to lose. It's a healthy place to win. I mean, even winning, if you're going over the top, your parents can correct that, you know, if you're bragging in everybody's faces. So that's the healthy expression. It's if you get, this is unfortunate, but if you get left out on the playground, that feels horrible, but then you are so much better with rejection later. Like you've learned that I made it through that. So
Yeah, it, the rejection thing, I think, can go both ways a little bit. But, and anything can go both ways. But I think what's really important to mention here is that you have a space where you can express your emotions.
you can
Because
express your emotions.
trauma, what it really is suppressed, not non-expressed emotion.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
And the interesting thing with this too, if you have a play group and you were the, you know, the one who was having a fit on Monday, that same play group is going to be there on Tuesday.
Hmm.
You know, you're not going to be shunned. So that
Yeah.
like, it's a really good thing to just to learn that people are people too. Like even my friend who's, 7 years old just had a breakdown or that person's crying. I mean, you're seeing emotions like that too play out. And it's just a realm of emotions that humans go through.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so let's talk about your book series, the Facet Tales. How do the characters and stories model or inspire leadership behaviors in young readers?
Absolutely. So I'll just take the first one. So the first one, Fasa is my main character. All my characters are cats and dogs who are animals that my husband and I have loved. So I just wrote about them. But what I did is I took stories of them meeting. They're very curious. They're trying to figure stuff out. But at the end of every story, I have a life lesson in there. So the story from the first one is my persistence paid off. So we see the character going through all these difficult things, but he keeps trying, he keeps trying, he keeps trying. And in the end, he gets to his happy ending. And that's how all the books are. The characters are going stuff. And in the end, there's a happy ending because they did something like my persistence paid off. And then what I do after that, I give 2 plot twists that further show that value. So in the first, so what happens is the character does something that takes him off the path to his happy ending that the kids have already read about. And then we teach another lesson in that. And I have the kids do something small, like say a cheer or something like that to get him back. So the first book, like I said, is Persistence Pays Off. And then there's 2 plot twists that show choices and consequences. And the first one in that one is if at first you don't succeed, try again. And the second one is mind over matter. So the kids are just constantly learning that. And then there are 5 activities that still teach that and teach different things. And so that's getting the kids up and moving. And then there are coloring pages and hidden pictures and word searches and all that stuff. But those, I really wanted to hone in on values like that, that the kids are just learning in the story and they're seeing when he didn't have that value, what could happen. And then there's talking points so the parents can talk to their kids about that value. So
Okay,
that's,
that
yeah,
sounds phenomenal. Yeah, sounds fabulous. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you have children, listeners, you know what to pick up and where can they pick that book series up?
So all of the books are on my website. It's sscoulter.com. So it's S as in Shannon, S as in Sue, and then Coulter. So everything I have is out there. There's coloring pages, word searches, but also this app is being developed now. So if you want to sign up for updates about that, it will be out. I am here to help you guys compete with technology and build the leaders of tomorrow by making sure our kids are playing.
Beautiful. And I will, of course, add all the links that you shared with me to the description. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today on Rise to Lead and for bringing this topic to us as well. Is there anything else you absolutely would like to add?
I just want to add that we are in charge of tomorrow and we are all leaders. And so let's lead our kids into a better future.
Thank you for that. Beautifully said. And to all of you listening, thanks for tuning in today and again for the next episode and for sharing this with anyone who might benefit, and especially parents. Thank you again, Shannon, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.